Hi, my name is Nadine Cohen. I'm an attorney at Greater Boston Legal Services, and I'm a longtime fair housing advocate. I'm here today to talk about affirmatively furthering fair housing. While we are all dealing with this unprecedented crisis, and our first priority is, of course, the health and safety of our families and community, even during these difficult times, there are other important issues we have to focus on. April is designated as Fair Housing Month, and fair housing issues cannot be ignored, even in this crisis. April 11th marked 52 years since the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act. The act was passed just 7 days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and it was enacted to ensure that housing in the United States was open to all, regardless of race, religion, national origin, and sex. It was later amended to include disability and family status. Here in Massachusetts, our fair housing laws provide even broader protections, including prohibiting housing discrimination based on source of income, sexual orientation, age, military status, ancestry, and marital status. The Fair Housing Act requires that HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Administration, administer its programs and activities in a manner that affirmatively furthers fair housing throughout the United States. This provision recognizes that government played a significant role in creating racial discrimination and perpetuating segregation. It gave HUD the job of ensuring that its programs not only were free from discrimination, but were part of an active effort to tackle segregation and redress the harms it caused. However, it was not until 2015, after years of efforts by fair housing advocates, that the Obama administration issued an affirmatively furthering fair housing rule that put teeth into that part of the Fair Housing Act. The 2015 AFFH rule set forth the following requirements for HUD and its grantees, including cities, towns, and municipalities. Do not discriminate in housing and community development programs. Take active steps to undo historic patterns of segregation and other types of discrimination, as often reflected in racially or ethnically concentrated areas of poverty. Afford access to opportunity for those to whom it has been denied, including access to better education, jobs, and living conditions. Under the Obama administration's rule, affirmatively furthering fair housing was defined as taking meaningful actions in addition to combating discrimination that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on protective characteristics. Cities and towns were required to do an assessment of fair housing, analyzing demographic data, obtaining community input, and setting out what actions they would take to significantly address disparities in housing needs and access to opportunity. The 2015 rule was very inclusive, requiring an analysis not only of housing, but of related issues, including transportation, education, health, employment, criminal justice, and environmental concerns. The fair housing community began organizing around the new AFFH process, and several cities submitted their assessment of fair housing. However, in January 2018, HUD suspended the AFFH rule, and on January 14, 2020, HUD proposed a new watered-down version of the rule to replace the robust rule that was adopted in 2015. The Trump administration's new Affirmatively Furthering rule confuses and conflates fair housing and affordable housing. It discards the equity and opportunity lenses that were key features of the 2015 regulation. It takes a free market approach, essentially relying on the notion that if we remove barriers to affordable housing, and let the markets operate without constraints, it will solve not only our affordable housing problems, but also our fair housing problems. That is just not the case. The proposed rule discards the requirements that jurisdictions had to perform an analysis of fair housing barriers in their communities and identify ways to overcome them. Not surprisingly, HUD's new AFFH rule does not acknowledge systemic discrimination or segregation in any manner. Fair housing advocates would like to urge all city and town officials to follow the 2015 guidance from HUD to ensure that your communities are being proactive in combating housing discrimination and also in overcoming past discriminatory actions and taking steps to really affirmatively further fair housing. These actions are necessary to ensure that communities are open and welcoming to people of all backgrounds and abilities, not only in Fair Housing Month, but throughout the year. Fair housing is not only the law, it is the right thing for all of our communities. Thank you.